After months of planning, gear discussion, and weather checking, it was finally time to head out to Brevard, North Carolina for a bikepacking trip. Unlike my most recent trips, I wouldn't be alone this time. In total, there were 6 of us, all with different setups but also with the same goal: to get outside and sleep by a fire, climb some hills, drink some beer, and enjoy what Western North Carolina has to offer. Okay, let's go over packing. So I've got my Surly Krampus here with the Ortlieb gravel packs in the back on the Surly rack. In my right bag, I've got my down jacket, and then Patagonia R1, my sleeping pad, and then way down there is my sleeping bag. So that's all down there in my right bag. In my left one is going to be other stuff. So I've got my granola and my stove. So inside of here is my stove and my fuel, and a lighter, of course. My trusty titanium spoon, of course, Surly flask. A dinner, just in case we need it. Doesn't take up much space to bring it along. My headlamp, some coffee, tea, warm drinks, a bag with my fire starters and some toilet paper, a rain jacket, and then my bag of cords, electronics, toothbrush, things like that. The Eagle Creek bags are pretty convenient for holding all of that. Extra pair of shorts, my camping pillow, and an extra pair of socks. Those are pretty much all my clothes. And then inside this sweet roll, I have my tent. And then right under there, I have a Crazy Creek camp chair, nice and light and pretty indestructible. I don't have a lot in my frame bag. A small tripod for the phone, the Revla Designs cash wallet, which is nice. So that's got the repair kit inside. Then a first aid kit and a high volume bike pump in the back there. And then right up here, I've got my 2 Revla Designs feed bags with a couple of water bottles. My InReach will be in there. Some goos and things. Garmin right up there. GoPro, and then I have the Revla Designs egress bag that can go on the front of their handlebar bag, but I just kind of have it sitting by itself, and actually have nothing up front this time, so a lot of weight in the back. But I didn't need a rear rack, or a front rack, so I just didn't want to put it on. And then I also got these problem solvers, which are kind of nice, so I don't have to worry about where to put my lights while I'm packed up and bags are in the blocking everything. So I've got one in the front here and one in the back right there, which would be nice. Shouldn't be a lot of road riding, but just in case, they'll be nice to have. And that's the setup. After literally years of the Sierra Nevada Brewery being closed or only open for takeout or reservations, it was great to actually be able to stop and have a beer, and you can tell that plenty of people did. Our trip started near the North Mills River Recreation Area. We actually got a nice wilderness campsite right up the road from it and set up there, which is not only free but also feels pretty secluded. We didn't think it'd be a real problem with people during this time of year, but it was nice to kind of have the place to ourselves. We woke up that morning and started packing up. Overnight, things didn't get too cold, and so we were fairly comfortable, but it was nice to kind of warm up next to a fire. And then it was time to actually start getting packs onto bags. The great thing about car camping the first night is that you have plenty of time in the morning to go ahead and get things ready.
Alright, I'm pretty sure I have all of my sleeping stuff up here, my clothes and cooking stuff back here, and random shit I might need here, and then food.
Sweet.
And then more food, and then water.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is just don't ever put a bag on the top too.
Yep.
This is just horrible.
Because we hate them and we hate people
Yes.
that use them.
I'm trying to think. Tent up here. I've got my sleeping pad and all my like down garments in there.
Yep.
Miscellaneous over there. Sleeping bag back here.
Sweet. Coming up next, guy with all the top two.
Yep.
What's up?
The guy with every bag.
Sponsored by
Apodura.
Brought to you by Apodura.
And Surly.
Uh-huh.
I've got sleep system, clothes for camp, chair and seat for camp.
Nice.
Or sorry, sandals for camp because you gotta have something.
Yeah.
All the camp junk that you need, and layers. In here is just extra stuff and water. I got a lot of room in there. Meds, music.
This is all my sleeping shit, tent, sleeping bag, etc.
Nice.
This is my chair and jackets and shoes. This is snacks. This is multi-tools, phone, battery, etc. Top of the tube is poop kit, toiletries, and nighttime clothes and gloves and stuff. And on the bottom used to be my stove, but now it's just random gubbins, like my trash bag, etc.
Okay, so first time with the gravel ones. So tent, sleeping bag, everything there, chair, up front, 2 feed bags, and that's it. That's the whole setup. I really don't actually have anything in my frame bag. There's not much in there. A couple pairs of gloves.
That is sleeping bag and most of my tent.
Yeah.
But the rain fly in there.
Got it.
No, rain flies in there. That's got all like tools and shit, cooking stuff, and food.
Sweet.
Snacks in here, clothes in here, sleeping pad in here, down jacket in here, and nothing.
The route starts with a fairly hefty climb. In say about, the first 3 miles, you end up gaining about 1,000 feet. So it's nothing too steep, but you definitely know that you're doing some work, which is nice. The gravel is in great shape, so no worries there. It had recently rained, and so the water was a little bit high, but it wasn't anything that was too awful, and it honestly kept things from getting a little bit too dusty as we're climbing up. It's always interesting riding with a group because before you know it, everyone kind of starts to settle into their own paces. And some are riding together and some aren't. Some pull ahead and some fall behind. And eventually everybody kind of catches up with everyone. And it's great to not necessarily feel the pressure to have to ride with everyone, but to occasionally be able to pull forward or fall back or take your time. And of course, after any uphill comes the downhill, which is pretty great. This was another time when it was nice not to have things very dusty and sliding all over the road. It was also pretty evident that there were still some damaged areas from storms that happened a while back. But of course, on a bike, that's actually pretty nice because you don't have to worry about oncoming traffic. There were no other cars to speak of or anything like that, and so it was great to confidently just be able to go and relax and flow downhill. And of course, the fun thing about this route and riding in Western North Carolina in general is that you're never doing any one thing for too long. If you get tired of going uphill, eventually you're going to go downhill. If you get tired of freezing on a downhill, there's another uphill coming. And so it's really kind of just about adapting, and so you're constantly pulling off layers, putting on layers, or changing how you're riding depending on what's getting ready to happen as opposed to what's happening. Another great thing about this route is that there's very little riding on pavement, which is pretty terrific. You're on there for a small stretch on Highway 276, and then before you know it, you're right back onto gravel, and you don't have to worry about cars. And then before you know it, you'll actually be able to see Looking Glass, which is what the route is really named after. It's great to actually be able to come in this time of year and actually be able to see it as you ride. Typically in Brevard, it's kind of visible from wherever you might be. It's a pretty huge piece of granite that just sits there. But with the leaves down, it's actually pretty visible, and so it's definitely worth stopping and grabbing a few pictures. Shortly after Looking Glass, we actually made the call to cut out a small single-track section of the trip. Some of us were a little more comfortable than others with it, and really we didn't really feel the need to push anything, and so we actually ended up hopping onto the highway just for a bit on 276 and just cruising on down to the hub. You really can't ask for a better place to spend a bike ride. They have great food trucks typically, good beer on tap, great bike selection, great bike services, and we actually spent quite a while there just relaxing, put our feet up for a little bit before we headed down to Avery Creek to find a campsite for the night.
Not too bad. I didn't go more than 25 miles.
How much does the S-Works crank cost?
We woke up Sunday morning to the rain that we all knew was coming. Of course, we'd been looking at the forecasts all week long, and so it was expected, but you always wonder, how much will it be raining? How hard will it be raining? And you never really know, and people deal with it differently. It's actually one of my favorite parts of going outside, really, is that level of unpredictability and having to get out of your comfort zone. You really don't have a choice when you're out camping. When it rains, you'll just get wet eventually. And after a while, you're just going along and you're outside, and it's just you and your thoughts. And on a bike, it's just you and your thoughts and pedaling. You can hear yourself breathing, you can hear the rain falling, and sometimes it's harder and sometimes it's lighter. But it's actually a chance to not feel separated from everything, which is great and refreshing. Okay, so that's the beginning of day 2, is a climb straight out of Avery Creek, which is a beast. You go up for about, I think it was 2.5 miles or so, and there's no way to do it but to do it. The grades are like between 6 and I think maybe 9 or 10% at most, so it's not killer, you just have to keep going on it. Lots of rain today, as you can see. We camped last night right at the bottom of Avery Creek. There's a great campsite. If you go, there's usually a closed gate, which is nice. So you can get past it, right past the horse stables, where everybody's gonna ride up for what I think is Black Mountain, the single track trail. And so now we have, I think, 2 more substantial climbs. And then that's about it. And a lot of what'll probably be a pretty chilly downhill. Last night was nice. It rained, started raining probably about midnight. And kind of kept going through the morning. Hasn't really let up. It's not heavy, but it's here. So all in all, it's been a great weekend so far.